Hi,
Hey everybody.
thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to talk about red flags to look for when you're choosing a listing agent. And first up, first red flag is if your agent does not anticipate problems. So there's a whole list of problems that you should be anticipating before you bring your home to market. Sometimes agents won't even talk about these things until you're looking at offers. So first thing up that is an issue that you want to anticipate are issues with condo docs. We always recommend ordering a full package of condo docs prior to bringing your home to market. This is really important because of lending requirements, and it's crucial to have a lender review the full package of condo docs prior to coming to market, because that will determine what sort of financing your property even qualifies for. So for example, recently the conventional financing requirements around condo docs shifted. Fewer condos qualify for conventional financing, and if you don't order your condo docs in advance, you could be costing yourself weeks on market and wasted time in terms of entertaining a buyer who doesn't even qualify to purchase the property. So
Or your property doesn't qualify for that buyer. The buyer may qualify, right?
True.
But
Yeah,
but
good
your
distinction.
condo may not qualify for conventional financing or 5% down or 3% down
Yeah.
conventional financing. We had one last week.
Right.
Offer came in, FHA, and I hadn't considered it for that building, and we looked at it and they said, we better double check that this building qualifies for FHA. And that's a whole nother can of worms. Part of that is condo docs. Part of that is FHA a number of years ago disqualified all the buildings that used to qualify for FHA. And now they have to get requalified. And so before we even took the seller's time to respond to the offer, go into escrow, and find out 3 weeks later that we don't qualify for FHA, we said we better dot the I on that and make sure that we qualify for FHA, and at the end of the day, we didn't.
Yeah, prior to coming to market,
Correct.
because you don't want to waste that time.
Yep. Anything else on condo docs?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
So let me jump into another area you need to anticipate problems, and that's land surveys.
Right.
Okay, couple different areas. So when you're selling a house in Hawaii, I know that when I sold real estate in California, they don't get land surveys. But in Hawaii, generally speaking, the seller provides the buyer a land survey. And that shows where the corners of the property are. And it also gives them a map of the perimeter of the property that shows what's near or on the perimeter of the property. Walls, improvements, right? I've seen where parts of houses are actually crossing
into the
property line, or they're within the setback on the property lines. So what happens is many agents won't get that land survey until you're in escrow, right? Which means that the transaction is negotiated, the buyer's in love with the property, and now we don't get that land survey, or they don't get the land survey until 2 or 3 weeks before closing. And if there's an encroachment, and so we're going to teach you a legal word here, the word de minimis, okay? De minimis means that anything less than 6 inches is considered de minimis and doesn't necessarily require an encroachment agreement or a wall agreement. Now, what happens is if it comes in and we have that agent, the agent you choose hasn't gotten that in advance, what happens is that agent needs to go to the neighbor. Let's say it was a 1 foot encroachment, the neighbor coming on to you, or vice versa. They're going to have to go to that neighbor, talk to them about the idea of a wall agreement or an encroachment agreement, all right? And then what happens is you need to have a wall agreement or an encroachment agreement drafted
by an attorney.
At a cost of somewhere in the $400 to $500 range, could cost more. Then you have to go to that neighbor and ask them to sign it. Many times they want their attorney to review it before they sign it. You'd probably want them to do that, right? Just smart to do. And they say, we don't want to pay for our attorney to sign it. If I'm going to sign this, you're going to pay for it. So at the end of the day, that encroachment agreement could cost 2 things. One, a lot of money. One encroachment agreement where an attorney has to review it could cost you $1,000 to $1,500. right? If you're paying for their attorney's fees, or it could cost you the transaction, because the way the contract is written is that if you can't resolve that encroachment agreement, then the buyer earns the right to terminate.
Right, because the buyer's on usually a short timeline to get that resolved, and if they aren't confident that it will be resolved, they'll just cancel, right, to protect themselves. So you want to get that figured out before coming to market.
So why is anticipation important? 2 reasons. First, cost. Right? Cost of the survey. We get bids in advance. We know the low cost providers, but we should be able to get bids in advance and go with the low cost provider. Second cost is if there's a problem with it, you avoid having to spend the $400 to $500 per encroachment to get the encroachment agreement drafted, and then the legal fees, and then the potential loss of the transaction. So by anticipating and getting the survey in advance, when an offer comes in, we can say, oh, by the way, here's a survey and there's a problem with it, but we want you to take it as is. We're not going to remedy it. My experience has been when we give it to them, when they're making the offer, they're in love with the property. And I'm not aware of a situation where we've done that, where they didn't accept it as is. So by anticipating that, we avoid all of that drama at the back end of the transaction.
Totally.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add to that, Lehua?
No, I think just a slightly separate topic, another area to anticipate problems in is regarding the seller's disclosure statement. You want to make sure you fill that out before coming to market, because it is an important conversation to have with your broker. It lays everything out. There are 155 questions or something.
105.
105.
It's over. It's 100. It's a lot.
It's a lot of questions.
It's a lot.
It's a detailed document. It's important to really go over that with your broker prior to coming to market, because sometimes there are issues that it's important for buyers to be aware of that may be deal breakers. For example, if somebody has passed away in the property, sometimes that you want to put everything on the table as much as possible, so everyone, meaning everyone on your team, you and your broker, are on the same page. So, sometimes there are repairs that are needed that maybe aren't talked about until you go through the seller's disclosure statement, and it's just important to have that transparency with your broker in case there are problems that are sort of revealed in that detailed
disclosure,
document.
Right?
Yes.
Well, and if there is a problem, as your agent and broker, the person selling it, we can then, how should I put it, pre-sell it, in the sense that we say, by the way, in the seller's disclosure statement, there was somebody that passed away in the second bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's debate whether that materially affects the value of the property under the current disclosures rules.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're disclosing something like that, you can tell them that so they're not surprised. Tell them circumstances of the passing, and maybe dampen down any concerns that would keep them from moving forward. Right? Just an example.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add on SOPDS?
No. So let me jump on the final area where you can anticipate problems. It's called the preliminary title report. The preliminary title report, or PTR, is the title to the property. It shows all of the legal documents that are recorded against the property. It shows the deed. It shows how the title is held. It shows any condominium documents, any fines or liens, or anything that affects the title is going to be there. It shows the ownership of the property.
Right.
And I'm going to give you an example. I know someone that had to file bankruptcy because there was a 1/512th interest on the property, and they were in the process of doing something with the property, and they couldn't get that 1/512th interest signed off because they didn't want to sell their 1/512th interest.
Right.
And they had to file bankruptcy. And that's something that could have been known on the front end by merely investigating the preliminary title report. If you have concerns with it, it's a legal issue. You can have your attorney look at it. But in most instances, for a normal residential property, there aren't issues. But sometimes If you've been married before, has anybody been married before? Right? There could be a child support lien. There, if your name is a common name, there could be, John Smith. There could be tax liens that may or may not be yours that could hold up the closing. There are a myriad of things that you want to dot the I on and cross the T to make sure that they're not going to slow things down. And if they are yours, then we want to anticipate how do we remove them so we can meet the timeline of the closing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You want to jump on anything else on that?
No, that was comprehensive.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next area. So these are areas and
of red flags.
Of red flags. And so when you're picking an agent to list your property for sale, you want to, a red flag is they don't understand how to price your property. All right? And I'm going to begin with the number one mistake anyone can make, whether it's your agent, whether it's you. The number one mistake you can make is to price your property too high. So if your agent doesn't understand how to price a property, doesn't understand concepts about pricing your property to get you the most money, then you want to not hire that agent. If you price too high, sometimes a lower price, actually the lower price will get you more money. Yeah. Right? And so we're going to talk about that. So we want to avoid overpricing your property because it will end up costing you days on market, and longer days on market ends up costing you money. Right. So why don't you jump into the next issue under pricing, Lehua?
So something to keep your eye on is whether your agent understands price point. Price point is something really important in today's world of everyone searching online for properties. And what I mean when I say price point is essentially when buyers are searching for properties online, they're using usually an upper parameter, price parameter for their search. So for example, if we're talking about a $1 million property, that's a pretty significant price point that people will look at properties under $1 million. If you price even $1 over $1 million, you're missing out on so many eyeballs of buyers who could qualify for your property. So it's important to keep that in mind in terms of, you might think that pricing $5,000 or $10,000 over significant price points would help you, but really it can significantly hurt you in terms of exposure to potential buyers.
Right. And so picking that right price point, and I just guarantee you, if you price at $999,999, you're going to get way more interest than if you price at $1,001,001.
Yes.
$2 price point. And so that price point, and there are sub price points under there, 750,000, 500,000 in condos, right? 300,000. Right. So you want to take that globally into perspective in your pricing strategy. Yeah. All right. And our final area under pricing that we want to talk about is they let you choose the price. And if you meet with your broker and you ask them, where do you think we should price? And they go, well, what do you want? Right? And you go, well, how about $2 million? And they go, okay, great. Run away. All right? Because at the end of the day, your broker should be able to give you clear, concise reasons why you should price at this price and how that's going to help you get more money. And that's ultimately the job of the price, is to get you more money. And when we represent buyers, we often call up the broker because the price makes no sense in relation to the comparable sales, right? And we'll ask them these questions. We'll say, hey, gosh, thank you so much for letting us show. By the way, how did you come up with the price? Is there something that you can share with me that justifies the price? All right. And it's not unusual in those instances because we've done the research, right? Right. And we ask because we want to know if we missed something, right? Yeah. And it's not unusual in those instances for those people and agents to say, well, that's what the seller wanted. Or I let the seller pick the price.
Yeah.
And really doing the seller a disservice, because number one, it puts them above where the market should be, generally speaking. Number two, agents don't take it seriously. It costs them eyeballs, right? And ultimately, if a seller needs to get a price that's outside the market, I think it's incumbent on that listing agent to say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I really can't represent you because there's no justification for $10 million for your $1.5 million property, right? And so don't let your agent let you drive the price or pick the price, all right? Anything you want to add to that?
No, that's perfect.
Great.
I think the third red flag that we'll talk about today is if an agent can't explain the importance of offering compensation to the buyer's brokerage. So this has been more of a conversation since the NAR settlement that kind of came down about 2 years ago. And I guess the importance of it is that if you decline to offer compensation to a buyer's brokerage, you're significantly limiting your pool of buyers. So you're putting yourself at a disadvantage against other listings that are offering compensation to buyer's brokerage. That is related to, some buyers have low down payments. They've scraped together cash funds in order to be able to make the purchase. And if they are suddenly having to come up with say an extra percent, an extra 2%, an extra 3%, or however, whatever their broker works on, sorry, hold on. Is it okay that I just said those percentages, or should I redo that? Is it not good for me to say specific percentages?
No, it's fine.
Okay, we'll edit that out. If they're having to come up with a significant amount of extra cash funds, it essentially just excludes them from being able to even make an offer on your property. And so it's very important to keep that in mind when you're deciding how you want to approach buyers' brokerage compensation. That, I think...
Well, it shrinks the pool of your buyers, but let me just talk about the final thing. And we debated whether or not we should have this conversation, but I'm going to have it because I think it's the truth. It's the reality. We'll tell you the truth as we see it. We won't use we won't use names to protect the innocent or the not so innocent. But the truth is, the average member of the Honolulu Board of Realtors sells about 3 properties a year, right? So put yourself in their place, right? They've got one of their buyers, so 1/3 of their annual income sitting in their car, and they're out showing them property. In preparing for that showing, because of the new rules, they asked each agent that they prepared for the showing, how much compensation is your owner offering for a cooperating broker? And we're going to come back to the word cooperating, right? And one agent is offering 3%, one agent is offering 2.5%, another agent, it varies because, watch this, for perfect clarity, commissions are negotiable. We'll say that again.
Jinx.
For perfect clarity, commissions are negotiable. And we say that because attorneys, when you use actual percentages, think that you're setting commissions, and we're not setting commissions here. They are 100% negotiable. I've been at this 43 years. They've always been negotiable, okay? Do we know that they're negotiable?
Yes,
okay.
I think so.
Cool. And so, but you've got this agent who is doing 3 transactions a year, 1/3 of their annual income in their car. They know on this hand they're going to be paid X. And they know on this hand, somebody said, oh, it's negotiable. Right?
Or they said, oh, the seller's not offering.
They're not offering. But more likely, someone's going to say it's negotiable, right? Which is true. But that lack of clarity, they're going, oh gosh, I mean, how much am I going to get paid? Am I going to get paid, right? And so the knowledge of knowing that they're going to get paid, and red flag, red flag, red flag, it's absolutely unethical for them to not show a property because of the amount of commission or the logic behind it. But this is where the truth is, in my opinion. We're dealing with human beings. Human beings who have bills, human beings who have goals and desires, human beings that are flawed, all right? So when there's lack of clarity, people have a tendency to go to clarity.
Yes.
Okay? So in my opinion, you want your listing agent to be very, very clear how much compensation you are offering a cooperating broker to bring their client in to sell your property. And I want to dive into the key word there, cooperating. Before this settlement, the whole idea was we cooperated as brokers. And the idea behind that is the more people that see your property, that like your property, that are going to, want your property, the more money you get. So the more brokers we cooperate with and the more that know they're going to be paid for helping you with the sale of your property, the more money you get. That's the theory. So we want to make sure that it's perfectly clear how much compensation you're offering so that we get the most cooperation from the brokerage community. Did I cover Did I beat that to death? Tortured that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, thanks for going over that.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump into the final area. Okay, so we're telling the red. We've been going through the red flags of realtor, agents that you're considering hiring. So how do you protect yourself?
Yeah.
Right? And we don't want to leave you with just all the negativity.
Yeah.
But how do you protect yourself? And first, I'm going to say that every state has a state agency that I'm aware of that's in charge of governing and disciplining licensed real estate agents.
The licensure agency.
Right. In the state of Hawaii, it's the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs.
DCCA.
Real Estate Commission. And if somebody has something filed against them, it will show up there, right? And I'm in defense of realtors. I know some very, very good realtors that have had things filed against them. But if you see a pattern of filings, and you read it, and you find out that they've done this more than once, or don't just look at the subcategory, dig into it. If they were found to be not guilty, someone just did something specious against them, that's in Hawaii, that stays on their record. It's not expunged, right? So the first thing you can do and should do, in my opinion, is just go to your state agency, double check if they have any actions against them for doing naughty things. Okay?
Another way you can protect yourself is to ask any agent that you're interviewing for references. That can include personal references, people who've known them for a long time, but more importantly, probably it would be either existing client references or recent client references. So that can really help you have a better picture of how that agent is to work with. It lets you see what their clients think of them, and they should be able to provide you with phone numbers or at the very least an email, you know what I mean? So that you can talk with those people directly if you want to check on them like that.
Well, and let's talk about that if you want to.
Yeah.
I miss your negativity. But if you want to, I think you have to. Let's be honest. With a median price of over $1,100,000 on the island of Oahu, if you're paying somewhere in the $40,000 to $60,000 price range, probably the biggest fee you've paid ever, right, for services, I think it's just prudent and practical to make those phone calls and ask hard questions. Ask, hey, what did they do well? More importantly, what could they have improved on, right? Check those. And Lehua brought up something in preparing for our discussion today. It was this idea that if you came to me and said, hey, Keahi, give me 2 or 3 real estate agents that you've done business with, I could do it.
Vouch for you.
That would vouch for me. And I know agents that I'd happily vouch for. The code of ethics may make it difficult for me to give you details on why I wouldn't work with an agent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're governed by a code of ethics, and we're not supposed to say naughty things about other agents. And now that I'm thinking this through, I would probably decline to comment. Right? That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So, anything else on the references? Because I have one final point to talk about, and then we're going to wrap this baby. Track record. You should ask an agent what their track record is, and from a number of areas. In your general area, right? It doesn't have to be specific to your street or your subdivision, but in Mililani or Waipahu or Manoa,
or type of property.
Type of property, right?
Yeah.
So track record, and they should be able to provide you dates of the activity, because there are some very agents that have done a lot of business, but they haven't necessarily done a lot of business in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
So when they say, "Oh, I'm a top producer," well, they were a top producer, but they may not be active in the market today. Recently. And so you want to see what is their experience, and you want to see when the experience was. And if you do these things, and then I would say the final thought that along these lines, the best way to find a great agent is to ask someone that you respect and trust for a referral, right? But then even then you've got to double check all this stuff.
It's always good to vet whoever you choose, and any good agent would be able to furnish you with those references or track record or a clean DC,
evidence of the DCCA, or explain the DCCA. If everything checks out, as long as we're talking about it. So, as far as I know, I don't have anything. Knock on wood. But
just kidding.
But they should be able to explain what happened. And if you dig into it, and if you really want to work with them, the DCCA will give you the details of what it was. It will tell you what the action is they took, etc.
Yes.
And so those are the things that happen under red flags.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you wrap this up with picking your real estate agent. So go ahead.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Let me try that. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week. We're going to do another video on how to pick your. We didn't actually decide
how earthworms might help your lawn.
Wow. Yes, it will be riveting. Make sure you tune in. Have a great weekend, and see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.